Kristin and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really simple and beautiful cowl using garter stitch, which means we're going to knit every stitch on every row. The trick is using a really simple bind off technique that I'm going to show you how to do at the end that lets you unravel a few stitches to give you a wider project and also a looser and drapier project. It's really cool. The piece is worked flat and then we twist it before seaming to give us this Mobius twist. Today we're going to be using So Serene Yarn, which is my 100% organic cotton that's completely made in the US. It's sport weight and 315 yards per ball. Now, in order to make this, you only need one ball of yarn, but in order to use all 8 of the hand-dyed colors, I made this little sampler kit that has all 8 colors represented, and you'll need only one of these to make the project. We're also going to be using a size US 3 or 3.25 millimeter knitting needles. Let's get started. To cast on, we're going to start with a slip knot. Slide that onto our knitting needle. And that counts as our first stitch. Now holding your working yarn behind and your tail in front, we're going to cast on a multiple of 6 stitches plus 5. Okay, instead of the 47 stitches for the cowl, to do the miniature size, I'm casting on 17 stitches. And now we're going to knit every stitch across. Okay, we have our 17 stitches cast on. We're now going to turn and knit every stitch across. Make sure you're using your working yarn and not your tail yarn. And knit every stitch across. Okay, then turn our work and knit every stitch across. Knitting every stitch on every row is called garter stitch. Now, if you were changing colors in the project, you would want to be changing your colors every 2 rows for the striping, or you could do this in a solid color and just do one color throughout. Before we go any further, I want to show you the thought process behind this color striping. So every color has 14, so the bright pink or blissful colorway is done with 14 stripes. Half of those stripes are done with this purple, and the other half of the stripe is done with this peach. So what you want to do, if you want to have offset striping like this, you want to make sure that with whatever color you start with color A, that you mix it with color B for only 7 stripes of each color. Then start a third color to stripe the first color, and then at that point, then you will be doing each color in 14 stripes, but they'll be offset by half until you come all the way to the end. And then when you finish up your last stripe of your last color, you're going to have half a little ball left over of your first color, and you'll finish up that stripe then. Now, if you don't want to do something this complicated, you don't have to. You could again, do this in a solid color or just do a full stripe of each color as you go. You could do this in 2 colors. Honestly, there's so many different ways you could do it, but if you want this offset color striping sequence, you'll need to download the free pattern on my website. Super, super simple to do. I'm going to show you how to change colors when you, if you're going to be doing the stripe. And I do this really simply by grabbing a new color and folding the yarn in half so you have your tail and your working yarn, and pulling it over the needle and pull up and knit the first stitch with the 1 loop. Then in the next stitch, use both the working yarn and the tail yarn and knit it. And I do that for a couple of stitches just to secure the tail. And if you leave it long enough, you can still weave it in, or you can just leave it like that and cut it at the end. And then you're going to continue on to knit across this row. Turn your work and knit another row. Each color is 2 rows. Now on the return row of any row that you added a new yarn, remember you have 2 strands for those few stitches at the beginning of the row. You want to make sure you pick up both strands of it so that you have your end secured. And now you've added a second color. Now to do the 2 row color stripes, we're now going to switch back to our first color. And you can twist these to secure them. So you want to put a little twist in the 2 yarns, and that's what helps carry up the second color when you're not using it. Okay, and then we'll knit across just like we did in every row previous to this. Okay, turn our work and knit back. Okay, so we've done 2 rows in the first color. We're ready to now do the second color again. And I just want to make sure that I'm twisting the 2 colors to pull up the color not in use to carry it up the work as we're going. So it's in the right position when it's time to use that color again. And we'll knit across. And I'll show you what that looks like on the finished one. You can see here is the side where we twisted the yarn to be able to carry it up when it wasn't in use. And here's the side that's the side between right side and wrong side. So when you knit across with one color, turned your work and knit back, twisted it with the other color to change color and go across and go back. This is the side that carries up the yarn, and this is the side that does not. And you can see they look fairly similar. Really nice. Okay, so you want to continue on and changing colors if you're doing the stripe, or knitting every row if you're just doing it in one color. And at the very end, I'm going to show you how to bind off with this really cool and deceptively simple technique that not only drops the stitches and unravels the stitches to create this loose and drapey effect, but also binds off all of the rest of your work. Instead of the 14 stripe color sequences I did in the full-sized cowl, in the miniature here I did 4 stripe colors of each, a sequence of 4 stripes of each color. And just to recap how we do that to keep them offset is you do the first half of the first color sequence to start. So I did 2 stripes of the first color, 4 of the second, 4 of the third, 4 of the fourth, and then finished off with the other half of the first color at the end. And now we're ready to do this really simple and cool bind off technique that will unravel some stitches. So we're going to start, and this is where the multiple of the stitch count will make sense too. We're going to knit 2 to bind off 1, knit 1 more to bind off 2, knit 1 more to bind off 3, knit 1 more to bind off 4, and then by fastening off this loop, that counts as our 5 cast off, bound off stitches. We're now going to knit 1 and then start the process all over. We're going to knit 2 to bind off 1, knit 1 more to bind off 2, knit 1 more to bind off 3, knit 1 more to bind off 4, and then that last loop, fastening it off, is our 5th stitch bound off. We're going to knit the next stitch, and then now we have 5 stitches remaining to bind off. So you knit 2 to bind off 1, knit 1 more to bind off 2, knit 1 more to bind off 3, knit 1 more to bind off 4, and that last loop is our 5th stitch to bind off. Okay, so now you have 2 loops left on your knitting needle. These are the 2 stitches that we're going to unravel. So you're going to remove your needle altogether and just sort of play with it and let it unravel all the way back down to the beginning. And it helps to work on one at a time. And if you pull the width and the length, it kind of will unravel and do the work all by itself. There we go. One of them's done. So I'll come over here to the other one and again pull on the work. Just slight pulling will do the trick, and you'll unravel it all the way back down to the beginning. And now you've created this loose and airy drop stitch texture to an otherwise super simple garter stitch color striped piece of work. Don't forget to go to my website to download this free pattern and also to order the Be So Serene sampler kit for $15.99. All of the links are available in the video description below, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos.